Alright, so today I want to talk about taming your ball python hatchling. And as a matter of fact, someone left a comment under one of my recent videos. They asked me, how much does it hurt when a ball python hatchling actually bites you? And let me tell you, it hurts a lot less when you get bit by a hatchling than it does getting bit from an adult snake. That goes for any snake, especially for some of the bigger ones like reticulated pythons. What you really need to do is you need to start early and build that trust and that relationship between you and the snake. And there's several ways you can do it. I'm actually going to show you some tips and tricks in this video, and it really depends on the snake as well. So for example, this snake around my neck, this is Bobby, my bamboo ball python. This snake has never even tried to bite me. Super friendly ball python. And it seems like if you have hatchlings that really, if they get rough handling or if they don't get any handling at all, they can kind of get a little bit confused and just start snapping at anything. As a matter of fact, when a ball python first hatches out of the egg, it is really super mellow. It does not bite anything, and it's kind of a double-edged sword because they don't really eat rodents very well right out of the egg. It's really difficult to get them to start. And the funny thing is once you start getting them over on rodents and they get a taste of those rodents, they pretty much start snapping at everything because they think it's feeding time every time you move something around the snake. And they don't really realize that they're actually hurting you. And you have to really kind of build the social skills of the snake, I guess I would say, and you have to make it realize that you're a person. You can actually get bit by the snake. You're not actually something to eat. You have to kind of work through some of these transitions, and it really depends on the snake. And it seems like this year I actually had a lot of snakes where I didn't really handle them a lot up in my rack, and it seems like a lot of them kind of lag behind. As a matter of fact, I saw someone's video, they bought one of my snakes and they were getting a bit quite a few times, and I'd say for a hatchling, it is par for the course. And what you really need to do while they're small is you need to really work with those snakes and get them through that transition over to where they're really easy to handle. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to pull one of the craziest ball python hatchlings that I have in my rack. I think his name is Stormy. He's one of my coral glows. Probably bit me like a dozen times at the last show. He was kind of crazy. Mellowed down a little bit since I've, kind of been working with him a little bit. But I want to show you kind of how to work through that transition from a snake that's maybe a little bit more bitey to where you can get it to be really extremely friendly. Alright, so take a look at this snake. This is Stormy. He is my male coral glow, 50% het pied. And these hatchlings, they can be a little bit crazy when they're about this size. This is kind of the size you want to get them kind of growing out of that really snappy phase. Essentially about this weight is where you want to really transition them over to a lot more handling. You can pretty much be pretty hands-off up until this point, and then you really want to get them tamed down quite a bit. And if you notice this one, he's kind of has his head cocked a little bit. You can kind of see he's kind of in a biting position right here. As a matter of fact, on all these hatchlings, if you were to actually just kind of take your hand and kind of move it right in front of the snake, I can almost guarantee that this snake is going to bite my hand. It's going to snap at my hand, and it's not really a defensive strike. Essentially what it is a feeding strike. And this one is kind of interesting. I thought he would bite my hand. I thought he'd bite at my hand already. It's kind of interesting. He's kind of looking at my face more than my hand. I definitely don't want him to bite my face, but a lot of people, if you pick up your snake and you start waving your hand kind of like this will actually make the snake strike. And a lot of people, what they do is they actually don't really read the snake, they don't really understand the snake, and they kind of get it wrong, and a lot of times they misunderstand that for an aggressive snake, where it's actually more of a feeding strike instead of aggressive. I'm actually surprised this one actually hasn't taken a bite from my, taken a snap at my, usually I'd say 99% of the time, most snakes would already have tried to bite my hand like this. So essentially what you need to do is well, I actually brought this to the show, one of the shows, and it was not really handled much at all. And a lot of people, actually, this snake was biting, trying to snap at everybody's hand. I was like, hey, if you want to hold a snake, don't hold Stormy because he's a little bit crazy. And it's interesting, they go through these transitions. So what you really need to do is you need to come from the back side of the snake, and you kind of have to hold the head kind of from underneath is the way I would hold it. And essentially what you do is, you know, if it starts striking, what you can do is you can kind of ball him up into a ball like this, and he kind of goes into hiding a little bit, and then you just kind of put him on your hand and wait until he unballs. And essentially what you're waiting for is you're waiting for the snake to kind of uncoil. I usually wait for the snake to do it by itself, and then kind of just crawl all over your hand. And as soon as it starts relaxing and crawling around and just kind of checking things out, that is really when you want to start the clock. And it's kind of interesting because, you know, different snakes, depending on their level of comfort with you, some will take more time and some will take less time. And as a matter of fact, if you are the person that bought one of my snakes and you're having problems maybe getting bit a dozen times or something like that, I actually saw someone that did a YouTube video getting bit a whole bunch of times. What I would actually do is put the snake on my hand, something like this, and then just wait for the snake. Try not to move anything in front of the snake because it'll actually take a bite. And just let the snake relax. I'd probably have nobody around and just kind of hold it and wait for the snake to relax. Probably what I would do is I would actually hold the snake for probably 2 hours or more. I'd say probably 2 to 3 hours, and this snake would be super tame. It really just takes a little bit of work with the snake. So you kind of jumped a little bit right there, but he started relaxing and crawling around. Essentially what you want to do is you want to wait until this snake is crawling around on his own before you start the clock, because this snake right here is still kind of in a confused mode, I would say. It's not really in a defensive mode, not really in a feeding mode. It's kind of in a cross between the two. It's a little bit confused. So what I would actually do is I would wait until the snake relaxes, and you can kind of see the neck right there, and the neck is kind of back like that. I would say that is more of a striking mode. It's a little bit more stressed out when you see the neck kind of kinked like that. So what I would do is I just hold the snake until it kind of straightens out its neck and it starts crawling around, and then I'd start the clock, and I'd probably hold the snake probably for 2 hours. I can almost guarantee I could take any hatchling, and within just 2 hours of holding that snake, it would be completely mellow. It's a little bit, I'd say at first it's a little bit kind of, you know, kind of jumpy, I'd say a little bit, but once you start holding them for, I'd say normally if you get a really super stressed out ball python, this one's kind of medium. I'd say it's a little bit wary, but I've had some that are really crazy. It usually takes about a half hour of holding them just to relax and start crawling around, and that is when I'd start the clock, and then just kind of, you know, just kind of hang out with them. And I've actually seen a lot of people, what they'll actually do is they'll take a really aggressive ball python and they'll put it in their shirt pocket and walk around with the snake in the shirt pocket. I've seen people do that. That works too. But what you really need to do is you need to spend a solid block of time really with your ball python, kind of, you know, spending some time with it and really mellow it out. A lot of people will say, you know, you should only handle your ball python, you know, for short periods of time. And I don't really think that is what a ball python needs, especially at this age. You really want to spend a good solid block of time with it. And if you spend too much time with it day after day after day, the ball python I think it can get stressed out a little bit. But as far as this age, you really need to spend that initial time with the snake. All right, so it is time for the question of the day. And Melinda Godfrey asks, what is the average weight of a ball python hatchling after it eats its first 6 meals? And that is a very good question. Essentially, I don't sell any of my hatchlings until they've eaten at least 6 meals. As a matter of fact, I think most people wait for 3 meals, but I really like to wait till 6. Seems like after 6 meals, it really stimulates their appetite. And at that point, they get to the kind of transition into the phase where they'll eat almost anything, kind of in the really aggressive, snappy phase. And that's really where you want them. You're selling them to someone, because I'd say the hardest part for ball python hatchlings is getting them started on those initial rodents when they first come out of the egg. And I would say the weight really varies. Sometimes you can have really big, chunky hatchlings right out of the egg. As a matter of fact, I've seen some hatchlings last year that were so big it looked like they've already eaten maybe 10 or 12 rodents that were coming out really big. And then one year, I think it was the year before last, I had some albino hatchlings come out super, super skinny, almost like a pen pencil, the skinniest hatchlings I've ever seen. I think I had 3 of them that were super skinny, and I think I assist fed them probably 6 or 8 times before I finally got them onto rodents, and then I actually had them pretty much eat on their own for another 6 meals before I sold them. As a matter of fact, some of those I didn't sell, so I think about 20 rodents because they were super skinny. So I'd say it's not really based on weight. I usually wait until 6 feedings, and I really wait until the hatchlings are really more aggressively eating before I sell them. So sometimes I'd say there's some exceptions. If they're really small right out of the egg, sometimes I'll keep them a little bit longer. So that is pretty much it. I'm going to leave you with some drone footage. It actually snowed last night quite a bit, and then we had a really clear day this morning. I took the drone out and flew it and got some really awesome footage. I'm going to show you that here at the end. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.